According to a popular narrative, women of lower caste were not permitted to cover their breasts in public in Travancore, Kerala. And if they did so, the state, under the influence of Brahmins, exacted a heinous tax known as Mulakaram or the breast tax from those women. As per an associated legend, Nangeli, a brave woman of the Irava caste, revolted against the atrocious practice and chopped off her breast in front of a tax collector. Her husband Kandapan got extremely devastated and committed sati by jumping into the funeral pyre. This extraordinary incident compelled the Travancore king to abolish this heinous breast tax. The internet is replete with several breast tax stories under a variety of headings, like breast tax, the most horrendous tax history has ever seen, and breast tax, 9 weird taxes from around the world. Some have even added micro details like the tax being charged as per the attractiveness or size of the breast. The tax, the revolt, and the legend have become ingrained in the popular conscience as a result of the repetition of these stories. I, a woman of the Irava caste, was intrigued by these stories and decided to investigate their source. Here is what I found. The storytellers of Nangeli missed a fundamental fact of Kerala's social life. The open bosom was never a concern for modesty in the sartorial sense that Keralites nurtured. The traditional Malayali society's sartorial choices deviated significantly from the general notion of modesty. It must be stated unequivocally that bare-breastedness was not only a trait of Shudra Jadi women, but of men and women from all Jadis. Pietro della Val's and John Henry Glue's 17th and 18th century travelogues reported the dressing styles of both men and women in Kerala who did not wear upper clothing. For example, an illustration of the audience of Dutch traveller Johan Nieuwhof with the Queen of Cologne in the mid 17th century royal court shows her with her breast uncovered. This refutes the claim that lower caste women were forced to remain bare-breasted. In reality, even royal women, including queens, did not cover their breast in those days. Another traveller, Abbe Dubois, published his experience titled Hindu Manners, Customs and Ceremonies in 1815. He noted that of all the women, courtesans covered their bosoms to create mystery around them and attract clients. Interestingly, covering the bust was considered an eroticizing technique done by the courtesans. In seduction manuals like Ambobadesham by Venmani Mahan Nambudiripada, the aspiring courtesans are instructed in the art of seduction by their seniors to keep their well-formed breast covered with an attractive upper cloth to attract male clients. The matrilineal Malayali society and its sartorial choices were a shock for the followers of the Abrahamic worldview. This is why only Christians and Muslims wore blouses. Hindus, both men and women alike, used to be bare-breasted. The anthropologist Fred Fawcett wrote that in Malabar, no respectable woman covers a breast. Abrahamic morality was not accepted by the natives. Rather, it was openly rejected at first, but eventually quietly accepted by those who travelled outside. English nurses were spurned by modest and discreet Thia women as they were not prostitutes and refused to wear neckerchiefs to maintain some English propriety. Similarly, in the autobiography of the reformer C. Keshavan, a young girl ventured out to try on blouses like a dancing girl as a rebellion against her mother's authority, just as today's teen girls rebel by wearing revealing apparel. Also, the much touted male mundu or the upper cloth was never a piece to cover the chest, but rather was a shawl or uttariyam put on the shoulders as a status symbol. The cloth was purposely or unintentionally confused with the breast cloth. So, if there was no culture of covering the chest in Kerala, what is the origin of all these breast tax stories, including that of Nangeli? And where did the term breast tax come from? There is absolutely no primary source that ever mentions the names of Nangeli and her husband Kandapan. It was N.R. Krishna who originally mentioned the brave woman in his book Irava's Then and Today in 1957. The author made no mention of the woman's or her husband's name. Using N.R. Krishna's two-line anecdote, C. Vasava Panikkar repeated the same story but with much certainty in his 1976 biography of S. Padmanabha Panikkar. In his book A Social History of India, S. N. Sadashivan spiced up the plot even further in 2000. by randomly fixing the timing at 1840 CE. Finally, it was journalist C. Radhakrishnan who coined the names of the characters Nangeli and Kandappan to make the story more catchy. He cooked up the suicide of her husband to add some melodrama. The story was published in The Pioneer on March 8, 2007. Its Malayalam translations were published on the same day in Madhubhumi and Malayalam Manorama. In 2012, the story of Nangeli made its way to the SBD Kaviyud Bulletin and then to the canvas of artist Murali and finally to the portals of Vagabond, Times of India and BBC, where it transformed from a two-line passing concoction of an Irava woman into the legend of Nangeli. Now, the source of breast tax. Mulakaram and Talakaram were poll taxes just like any other tax collected per head worldwide in that era. The word poll is an archaic term for the head or top of the head. Hence, tax collected per head was called a head tax, poll tax or capitation, which in Malayalam is Talakaram. Since the tax value paid for women was lesser than that for men, to differentiate between men and women, poll tax for women was called Mulakaram. In Malayalam usage, the word mula, that is breast, is unique as it is used to indicate female. In popular idioms, for example, two heads may mingle but four breasts never. Here, breast infers a grown-up girl. N. Sadashivan literally translated Mulakaram as a breast tax and wrongly defined it as a tax levied on Shudra women for the right to cover their breast. He even said that more attractive the breasts were, the more the tax she had to pay. The cock and bull story of Nangeli is a classic example of how fake yet powerful narrative can be built by some people to achieve their ideological goals. This is Rani Sajitha for Upword.